Flacco was traded, and Kevin Stefanski did not know that Joe Flacco was being traded. That was a Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry call. So Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry are the ones that traded Joe Flacco because they want to see Shedeur move up in the depth chart. They want to get Shedeur on the field. So they're taking matters in their own hand. Now, the Cleveland media has exposed Kevin Stefanski plenty of times with this Shedeur Sanders sabotaging and debacle, right? So I've been telling you guys that don't get excited because Shedeur Sanders.
Don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. This isn't just another quarterback controversy. This isn't some routine who's QB2 debate that gets buried in the back of the sports pages. No, what just went down in Cleveland feels seismic. It feels like a crack splitting right down the middle of the organization. And Kevin Stefanski is standing on one side of it, staring across at his own bosses on the other. And the crazy part, the man who's supposed to be the steady hand, the two-time NFL Coach of the Year, just got completely blindsided. Think about this. Your owner and your GM make a franchise-shaking decision. They ship out Joe Flacco, they elevate Shedeur Sanders into the number 2 role, and the one guy you'd expect to be looped in, the head coach, the man who's supposed to be running the show on Sundays, he doesn't even find out until after it's already done. Imagine that, waking up, scrolling your phone, and realizing your quarterback room has been gutted and reshaped overnight. That's not just disrespect. That's a message. That's ownership saying, we don't trust you anymore. And that right there is why this feels different. This isn't about whether Shedeur is ready. This isn't about Dylan Gabriel holding down the job for a few more weeks. This is about power. This is about control. This is about whether Kevin Stefanski even has a voice inside his own building anymore. You can call it politics, you can call it dysfunction, but let's be real. This is a power struggle that could decide the future of the Cleveland Browns for the next decade. Because history tells us something important. Great organizations are built on alignment. Look at New England during the Brady-Belichick years. Look at Kansas City right now with Mahomes and Andy Reid. The owner, the GM, the head coach, they all pull in the same direction. That's how dynasties are born. But Cleveland looks like 3 people tugging on the same rope in opposite directions, and it's starting to snap. And here's what makes it explosive. Stefanski isn't just any coach. He's not some interim figure keeping the seat warm. He's one of the few guys in franchise history who actually stabilized this team, who actually put wins on the board and restored some credibility to the Browns' name. And now that same guy is being cut out of the loop, treated like a bystander while the owner and GM make quarterback decisions behind closed doors. That's how you destroy a locker room. That's how you lose players. Because trust me, players see this. They're not dumb. They know when the coach is getting undercut. And when that happens, chaos spreads fast. So make no mistake, what just happened isn't just about Stefanski versus Shedeur. It's about Cleveland standing at a crossroads. Do they ride with the proven coach who brought them back to respectability? Or do they push all their chips in on a rookie quarterback with a famous name and undeniable talent? Either way, something has to give. And when it does, it's going to define this franchise for years. And that's why I'm telling you right now, this isn't business as usual. This is a breaking point. And if you think it's messy today, wait until the next domino falls. Here's the thing about Shedeur Sanders. You don't have to squint to see it. You don't have to force yourself into believing in him just because of the last name or the hype. The talent jumps off the field. It's right there, in every tight spiral, in every ball placement that makes a veteran receiver pause and shake his head like, damn, this kid's different. And that's why the Browns front office isn't waiting. That's why ownership shoved Flacco out of the building and pushed Shedeur up the depth chart. Because when you've got something this rare, you don't hide it behind glass. You get it on the field. Think about where Shedeur came from. At Colorado, he wasn't just another quarterback in the system. He was the system. He was the heartbeat of every Saturday, taking hit after hit behind a shaky offensive line and still putting up numbers that made scouts sit up straight. People questioned whether his production would translate. Could he handle NFL speed? Could he process complex defenses? Could he lead a room full of veterans who've seen it all? And so far, every single practice rep, every throw in camp has been an answer. Yes, yes, and yes. And listen, I know it's easy to dismiss hype when it's coming from the media. Analysts can fall in love with storylines. But when it's the guys in the locker room, the ones actually lining up next to you, that's when it means something. Jerry Jeudy saying Shedeur throws one of the best balls he's ever caught. Defensive backs talking about how tough it is to read his eyes, how he disguises throws like a veteran. That's not lip service, that's respect. That's belief. And in the NFL, belief spreads fast. You watch Shedeur throw, and it's not just about the arm talent. It's the confidence. He carries himself like he belongs, and that matters. Quarterback isn't just a position, it's an aura. It's the way you walk into the huddle, the way 10 other guys look at you when you call the play. Shedeur has that. He's got that calm, that command, that presence that says, "Follow me, I've got this." And you can't fake that. You either have it or you don't. Now here's the kicker. Shedeur doesn't need to be perfect right away. He doesn't need to be Patrick Mahomes out of the gate. What he needs is the opportunity, the chance to take all that practice energy, all that locker room buzz, and put it under the lights on Sunday. Because once he gets that shot, you can feel it. He's not giving it back. And the Browns know it. That's why they forced Stefanski's hand. That's why they're willing to create chaos in their own house. Because they believe Shedeur is the guy, the one, the quarterback who can finally end decades of misery in Cleveland and bring hope back to a city that's been waiting way too long. So yeah, there's risk. There always is. But sometimes risk is just another word for faith. And right now, the Browns are betting big on Shedeur Sanders. And honestly, watching the way this kid carries himself, I can't blame them one bit. Here's where things get complicated. Because on paper, Kevin Stefanski should be the guy you trust with this decision. He's a two-time coach of the year. He turned the Browns from a laughingstock into a playoff caliber team. He's supposed to be the quarterback whisperer, the steady hand that guides a franchise through storms. But right now, he's the one being painted as the roadblock, and that's the dilemma. Why is a coach known for developing players suddenly the one standing in the way of Shedeur Sanders? Let's talk about the first possibility, Dylan Gabriel. Look, Stefanski went to bat for this guy in the draft process. He liked Gabriel's Oregon tape. He liked the efficiency, the quick decision-making, the way he played within structure. Gabriel is the safe option. He's the guy who won't wow you, but he won't wreck the game either. And Stefanski loves that. He values predictability. He values control. That's his entire offensive philosophy. Stay on schedule, take what the defense gives you, limit mistakes. To him, Gabriel is the perfect fit. And if you've ever coached, you know how hard it is to admit you might have hitched your wagon to the wrong guy. Loyalty runs deep. Then there's the second explanation. Maybe Stefanski really does fear rushing Shedeur too early. Maybe he's scarred by history. We've all seen it before. David Carr in Houston, Sam Darnold in New York, Tim Couch right here in Cleveland. Talented young quarterbacks thrown into the fire, beaten down, ruined before they ever had a chance. Stefanski might look at Shedeur and think, I can't let that happen to him, not on my watch. On the surface, that sounds noble. But here's the problem. If that's truly his reasoning, he's not explaining it. He's not giving specifics. He's not saying Shedeur needs to improve his timing on deep outs, or he's struggling with blitz recognition. Instead, all we get are vague lines about the playbook and being ready. And when you can't back up your position with detail, people start to question your motives. Which brings us to the third possibility, ego. Coaches are human. They don't want to be proven wrong. They don't want ownership to dictate their decisions. If Stefanski finally caves and starts Shedeur, it looks like he lost the power struggle. It looks like Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry were right and he was wrong. And for a head coach, that can feel like a death sentence. Because once the locker room senses you've lost authority, it's almost impossible to get it back. So maybe, just maybe, Stefanski is digging in, Not because he doubts Shedeur, but because he refuses to let someone else dictate his legacy. And that's the irony here. The same coach who built his reputation on developing quarterbacks, the same guy who helped make Baker Mayfield look competent, the same guy who resurrected Joe Flacco's career for a hot minute, is now being cast as the one blocking a rookie phenom. It's wild, it's frustrating, and it leaves the Browns standing in this bizarre limbo, a conservative coach clinging to control versus a gunslinger quarterback that everyone else in the building is begging to unleash. So ask yourself, is this really about football, or is this about survival? Because from where I'm sitting, Kevin Stefanski isn't just protecting Dylan Gabriel, he's protecting himself. And the longer this drags on, the more it feels like one man's identity and pride are colliding with the future of an entire franchise. Here's the thing people forget. You can spin press conferences all you want. You can hide behind playbooks and depth charts. But inside an NFL locker room, the truth always comes out. Players know. They always know who the best guy is. And right now in Cleveland, the players are making it loud and clear. They believe in Shedeur Sanders. Jerry Jeudy didn't have to say it. He didn't have to go on record and tell the world that Shedeur throws one of the best balls in the league. But he did. Defensive backs don't normally hype up the guy torching them in practice. But they did. And the media insiders who've been around this team for decades, they're flat out saying it. Shedeur looks ready, he looks sharp, and he's winning people over rep by rep. That's not just noise. That's the heartbeat of the locker room. And here's why that matters. When players rally behind a young quarterback, it creates a wave that no coach can stop. We've seen it before. In Philly, the locker room flipped to Jalen Hurts before Doug Peterson even wanted to admit it. In Kansas City, everyone in that building knew Mahomes was different before he even started his first game. It's that same feeling in Cleveland right now. You can sense it. The momentum is shifting towards Shedeur. But here's the danger for Kevin Stefanski. The more he resists, the more he risks losing his team. Because players don't fight for systems. They don't fight for safe decisions. They fight for guys who can win them games. They fight for quarterbacks they believe in. And if the majority of the Browns locker room already sees Shedeur as the guy, then Stefanski's stubbornness isn't just frustrating, it's alienating. It's pulling him further and further away from the men he's supposed to lead. And then you add the Deion Sanders factor. Let's not pretend it doesn't exist. When your quarterback is Deion's son, the spotlight burns hotter. Every throw is analyzed. Every decision is magnified. The cameras follow you everywhere. For some teams, that kind of attention crushes a rookie. But for Shedeur, it's fuel. He's been living with that pressure his whole life. And the crazy part? He thrives in it. He leans into the weight of the moment, and it makes him sharper. That's the cultural shift Cleveland is standing on the edge of. Stefanski wants control, silence, order. But Shedeur represents energy, charisma, a new generation of leadership that embraces the noise and uses it to his advantage. That's why the locker room is gravitating toward him. That's why the front office is forcing the issue. Because this isn't just about who can execute a slant on 3rd and 5. This is about who can lead a city, who can carry the weight of expectations, who can walk into the huddle and make 10 other grown men believe. And let's be real, that's Shedeur. Every sign points to him. The players know it. The media knows it. Ownership knows it. The only person still standing in the way is Kevin Stefanski. And if he keeps standing there, he might just get run over by the very wave that's building inside his own building. So here's where it all comes together. The Cleveland Browns are standing at a fork in the road, and whichever path they choose could define the next decade of football in this city. On one side, you've got Kevin Stefanski, steady, proven, conservative, clinging to control. On the other side, you've got Shedeur Sanders, young, electric, unproven but undeniable, a quarterback who feels like he was built for this moment. And the truth is, these two paths can't coexist forever. Something's going to give. Let's be real. Stefanski isn't going to survive this standoff. Either he resigns, tired of being undermined, or ownership forces him out once it's clear he won't play the guy they drafted to be the face of the franchise. That part feels inevitable now. The bigger question is what happens when Shedeur finally gets his shot. And if you've been paying attention to the locker room, to the media buzz, to the way this kid has carried himself since day one? The answer seems obvious. When Shedeur takes over, he's not letting go. We've seen this script before. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith for a year, and people questioned whether he was ready. Josh Allen was clowned as a draft bust his rookie season before he became an MVP candidate. Lamar Jackson was told he should switch to wide receiver, then won MVP by his second year. The great ones always face doubt. They always have to climb over obstacles, critics, and politics before the league finally realizes what was in front of them all along. Shedeur Sanders is walking that same path right now. The difference is his obstacle isn't talent. His obstacle is his own head coach. And here's what I believe. When Shedeur gets the keys, he's going to prove everybody wrong. Not just the fans, not just the analysts, but Kevin Stefanski himself. Because Shedeur doesn't just throw a pretty ball, he brings belief, he brings charisma, he brings the kind of leadership that can flip a locker room from divided to united in a heartbeat. And that's something you can't coach. That's something you either have or you don't, and Shedeur has it. The Browns are at a crossroads. If they cling to the old guard, if they keep hiding behind development timelines and system fits, they'll waste another year of talent and slam this window shut. But if they unleash Shedeur, if they build around his gifts and embrace the energy he brings, the future is wide open. This team could go from a playoff hopeful to a legitimate contender, not in 3 years, not in some distant timeline, but now. So here's my prediction. Shedeur Sanders will be the Browns' starting quarterback before this season is over. Stefanski won't survive the fallout, whether he steps aside or gets pushed out. And when Shedeur finally takes that first snap as QB1, you'll feel it. The city will feel it. The league will feel it. Because this kid was born for this stage. The Browns can either fight it and fracture or embrace it and rise. And I'm telling you right now, if they choose Shedeur Sanders, the sky's the limit. Cleveland has been searching for its quarterback savior for decades. They've been waiting for someone to lift this franchise out of the mud and into the spotlight. And that moment, that savior, might already be standing in their locker room. The only question left is whether the Browns are bold enough to make the move.